it's the 1st of February and I'm back again with another project that I'm going to put onto my little hanging frame. For those of you that watched January's project, I did this little card here with the word believe. This is just a frame from IKEA, £1 frame, and I've taken the plastic out of it and just used a couple of book rings to attach a hanging panel in there. And the word I've chosen for February is explore. And that can have lots of meanings and interpretations. I'm going with a fairly obvious sort of travel, explore the unknown, that sort of theme. But you could explore different media, different textures, different colours. It's just meant to be an inspirational starting point for you. And if you want to sort of play along with me and take inspiration from this video and make yourself a project of any type using the word explore as your starting point, then, you know, there's no right, there's no wrong. But this was the template that I used to cut my panel last time. This is what I'm going to use every month. And I've just taken a piece of mixed media card and I've cut it 3¼ inches by 5¼ inches. And then I've marked, I've got my 2 holes that I've punched with my crocodile. They're just 1/4 inch down from the top. And I know that they're going to fit into my frame and hang nicely. So I'm keeping this template. Each month I'll bring that back out, cut myself another piece of card. So as I say, this is just a mixed media card out of a pad. I've cut that to size. And I've gathered together a few products that I think I want to use. I'm going to use some of them. I may use all of them. I may at some point go and grab something else if I have another idea. But I have a general idea of what I want to do. As I said, my word is explore. I've got this set of visible image stamps. I'm going to use the explore word that's in this. I may use some of the imagery on the stamp set there. I'm not sure yet, but I definitely want that out to use the word. I have some scraps of paper. I've gone through my stash and I've got some offcuts. This is a Kaiser Craft paper and it had lots and lots of different doors on it. And I want to use this set of doors here that's cut out. It was a double-sided scrapbooking page, but I really like that door. And going from that sort of colour scheme, I found a few other little bits and pieces of scrapbook papers that I'd got. And there's this clock design, there's this lovely sort of textured crackle design, a little tiny bit there. This sort of watercoloured background, a few more doors there. And, you know, again, this was from another Kaiser Craft, and I've got this lovely map print paper as well. So I'm going to be doing some sort of collaging with these papers. I've got some washi tape that I may or may not use. This is a Tim Holtz one, and it's got sort of US subway stations. I think they're New York subway stations. This was a Dina Wakley one with like arrow design on. I thought they may or may not come in handy. I've got some little arrows here. These are grunge board arrows. Again, may paint those up, may use them, may emboss on them. Not entirely sure yet. I've got a stencil because I think I might want to add some stencil detail over the papers. And this is one from That's Crafty. It's a really nice mandala pattern. And this is a sheet from Crafty Individuals. Now, I've had this years and years and years. So please, if you go to if they still have a shop and they don't sell these, please don't blame me. But these are printed wings. They're on acetate. And I thought it might be fun maybe to layer a couple of these in. I don't know. We'll see. I've also got some paints that I'm going to use probably through the stencil. And I've got my Dina Wakley paints out. These are just some of her heavy body acrylics. But the colour palette sort of fits quite nicely with the papers that I've chosen. So I thought, well, we'll keep it simple and we'll go with things that we know are all going to tone in together. But as I say, it's going to be a work in progress. We'll see how we go. I'm going to be using some just matte medium to stick my papers down with a paintbrush, and we'll just make a start. And as I say, I may well put this on fast forward if I'm just doing something that's just quite obvious, and then I'll come back in and explain anything that might need a bit of further explanation. But I'm going to begin with this map paper in my background, and when I stick it down I'm going to have it overhanging this piece, and then I can just flip it over and trim it neatly. And when I've finished, rather than trying to align it, it's just easier to have it overhanging. The same with the holes. I've punched the holes in, I know where they're going to be, and when I've collaged over the front surface, I'll be able to just flip it over, line the holes back up again, and punch right through any layers that might be there. So I'm going to apply some paint through my stencil, and I've got these just the little sponge finger daubers. I find them really easy to use where you just want to do a small area, and I'm just going to squirt a little bit of paint down onto, this is just a piece of deli paper that I've got in the background here that I can throw away when I've finished, and just get a small amount of paint onto the sponge dauber. And then just use it to apply through the stencil. And this should give quite a nice, just soft effect. It doesn't distract too much from the design underneath, but it just helps sort of ground those layers together, blend them in together a little. The colour that I'm using here, this is Sedona, which is like a sort of rusty colour. It's really nice. I also want to bring in some of the turquoise colour, so I'm going to choose the peacock. I do have marine as well, which is darker, but I think the peacock will be quite nice. And again, just popping a little bit down onto my deli paper. And I think this time I'm going to choose a different section. And I'm just going to make sure that this is dry. I'm going to give it a quick dry with my heat tool, and then I'm going to use the buff colour just to stencil over the top. So I'm just going to go and give my stencil a quick wash off, get the acrylic paint off it. This will dry and I'll be back to add some finishing touches. So now the paint is all dry and I want to go around the edge just to frame this a little bit, and I'm going to use my archival sepia ink to do this. I would usually, if it was just the paper, would just use a distress ink, but because I've got the paint on here as well, I find the archival inks just sort of adhere to everything a little bit better and dry a bit quicker. The distress inks can take a while to dry if they're over a painted surface. And I'm going to be using the same ink pad to stamp my sentiment. So I'm just going to take that and pop it on my acrylic block. I'm going to stamp it onto this bit of scrapbook paper that I've got here, rather than just on a plain white background. And just using the bit of ink that's left on here, again, just rub it around the edges of that piece there. I do feel that the clock is a little bit white, so let's just knock that back with a bit of the ink. That's better. So I've got my word. I've cut out a set of the acetate wings from that sheet that I had. I would like to use one of those at least. I think I've decided against the washi tape. I don't want that. That's black and white and I don't feel that that fits. I do want to use, however, a couple of these arrows, these grunge board arrows, but I want to heat emboss them first of all. And I've decided to use, this is one of the Set Up to Bake textures. This is ancient amber. I'm going to use that. Let's just move those to the side for now. And I always find the easiest way to emboss on things like this is to use the dabber rather than an ink pad. I try and keep my ink pad in a reasonable condition, and trying to dab onto chipboard shapes and grunge board shapes can sometimes it can add a bit of wear and tear to your ink pad. So the dabber is absolutely perfect. Again, not sure if I'm using all of these, but I may as well heat emboss them all together and then make a decision. So just popping those onto a piece of paper so that I can sprinkle the embossing powder on. And then just heat emboss. And that's give them a really nice, it's a subtle metallic sheen, the ancient amber. It is a gold tone, but it's got speckles of sort of orange in there and black in there. And it's, you know, rather than just a super shiny gold, it's just got a bit more vintage tone to it, really. And that'll tone in really well with the colour scheme we've got here. So it's time to finally put these last few pieces in place. And I'm going to be sticking these other bits down with my Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue in a fine tip bottle. So I'm just going to decide, this is always the difficult thing, where everything is just going to fit. Like to know where it's going before I start gluing things down. Just simply because, you know, once it's in there, it's in there. I do like this curled arrow, but it's not going to fit. So I think sadly that will be left for another project. So just using a bit of this glue just to finish sticking everything down. I like the added dimension from these embossed shapes. And no, don't need the other wing either. I think I'm going to leave that. So I'm just going to punch my holes through, and I have this sneaky suspicion that one of them is going to be through the grunge board, but nope, just missed it. That's good. Just lining up with the holes that were already in my backing card. And I'd just like to finish things off with a ring reinforcer. So this is a punch from We Are Memory Keepers, which is really nice for just say punching, coordinating ring reinforcers from scraps of paper. And I'm just going to glue those in place. And just tuck that underneath that little arrow there. And I'm going to call that one done. That card is done. So I'm just going to clear this out of the way and I'll pop this in my frame and we can just see the finished thing. And here we have our finished project for this week. I hope that you've found a little inspiration. Maybe you're encouraged to go and create something based on the word explore. Maybe you've been inspired by the colour palette we've used today, using up scraps of paper. We've all got those little offcuts that we don't quite know what to do with. Collage them into the background, add some stenciled detail, add some stamped detail if you want to. You know, it's a fun process just to create something, and create something quite small. I really like the subtle tones that we've used, and nice contrast from the bright colours we used last month. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I shall be back again next week with another project for you. But for now, that's all. Bye.